Hey guys, welcome to the Every Arkansas podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and this week we've got Chris Heaser. Chris is a dear friend who's chasing after God in a unique way. He's an engineer who's out there on the streets, knocking on doors and making a difference in people's lives. I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, Chris, welcome to the podcast. We're so glad you could join us. So, you help lead Adopt a Block for the Arkansas Dream Center, but that's not a full-time gig. So, tell me a little bit more about who you are and how you ended up here.
Sure. So, I came to Arkansas about 10 years ago. Uncle Sam brought me here. I did 4 years in the Air Force, and so there's a base up in Jacksonville. And so May of 2009 is when I got here. And so I did my 4 years in the Air Force, and I loved Arkansas so much that I decided to stick around. And so since then, I've been in manufacturing roles, process engineering, and then more into management, so more of operations management, production management, those types of things.
Tell a little bit about how in the world you even found the Dream Center.
Yeah. So when I was attending New Life, and I still attend New Life, I would see opportunities to serve that were advertised to help out. And so there was a few things just sort of putting your toe in the water that I saw that were interesting to me. Christmas Mall is a fantastic event every year, and so there was opportunities to help out with that. Thanks Serving, that was a fantastic event as well. And so those were probably two events that were, say, like low barrier of entry, like real easy to jump in, help out, see what the Dream Center is all about. And here I am years later, still serving. So been really enjoying the time at the Dream Center.
And what you kind of lead is Adopt a Block. So tell us a little bit about what Adopt a Block is.
So we want to share the hope and the heart of Christ with the community. And so there are particular neighborhoods that we spend our time with building a relationship. So we'll go to the same neighborhood on the time interval that we're scheduled. So for instance, we are there every other Saturday, every second and fourth Saturday. So there's one neighborhood that we've been spending time with, Sunset Terrace, and what we do is we're just building relationships with the community out there and getting to know them, and just really trying to understand how we can meet needs as well as build relationship. And so what's really exciting about Adopt a Block is that you don't necessarily know where those relationships are going to lead and what opportunities are going to come from that. So, for example, we were serving in Eastgate for a while, and the Dream Center, as you know, had an opportunity to acquire Pine Street Elementary. And so the opportunity to have brick and mortar establishment as well as programs running throughout the week, I think was capable largely because of the seeds that were planted through the relationship building in programs like Adopt a Block in Eastgate. And so now we see where there's after school programs, reading assistance, and just a more, I would say, thorough and comprehensive relationship, but that also meets needs in North Little Rock. And I feel like programs like Adopt a Block really help pave that way.
Yeah, and something you mentioned earlier, which is kind of a real important thing for a lot of people, is they worry about, oh, I'm going to have to commit the rest of my life to this, or I'm going to have to do this. Adopt a block, and really how you got started, what you said was that ease of entry.
Hmm.
So, I mean, with Adopt a Block, what kind of commitment are you expecting out of people?
As much or as little as somebody is willing to give. I believe that if somebody comes out and gives it a try, that they're going to have a great time and they're going to want to come back. Um, we don't expect people to show up with anything. We don't expect anyone to have anything prepared. We're just going out in the community, loving on families and building relationship and having a good time. And so the other nice thing about it is the flexibility on bringing kids. When I've had volunteers or potential volunteers in the past ask, "Hey, can I bring my kid?" Not only is it okay, but it's fantastic when parents bring their kids to this, because frequently we've got a lot of kids that are out playing around, and then so there's just another level of interaction when you're having, say, 10-year-olds running around playing together that you don't quite get when it's adults interacting with kids. And so it brings another element to it. And so nobody has to worry about childcare. And I would say it's a very easy thing to get involved in. And if you want to come back, which most our volunteers do, that'd be great. But if not, we want people to be plugged in where they're called to and where their gifts can be utilized best, whether that's reading with kids after school, serving the homeless, or maybe serving the community in Adopt a Block.
That's great. And Adopt a Block to me also offers a lot of opportunities. So if you want to go out there and kick the soccer ball with a kid, or you just want to go out and serve a meal with a kid, or you want to pick up trash or do a little work project for someone, it's all kind of out there on any given Saturday that you guys are out there.
Yeah, I mean it's a very dynamic uh, situation. I mean, you don't necessarily always know what the weather's going to be like. You don't necessarily know what needs are going to show up. Sometimes you get out there and you just find that there might be a kid that's hurting and wants to talk about something or wants to get some help with something. And so, you don't necessarily show up saying, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how the day is going to go. You just leave it open for what opportunities God may have in store for you, and then you sort of go with that flow. And that's where I find we have our best days, is when we allow those opportunities to be placed before us, and then we just pursue that with the families.
I've known you for a lot of years now. So, I mean, when you kind of started, it was kind of you were putting your foot in the water. But as you started to invest, what kind of happened? I mean, just from a personal standpoint, what was kind of the track that you kind of took?
When I started coming around, a lot of my time was, I would say, more behind the scenes, and it was um, sitting in a chair on Sunday, enjoying the message, and then during the week, um, for me, volunteering might look like um, helping out with a donation, or um, just very behind the scenes kinds of things. And what I found is, as I started to get more involved relationally, um, it improved my relationships in my life just 360 degrees. So what I was doing with the Dream Center helped improve my relationships, say, in the workplace, or with my family, or with my friends. And so that relationship building, it permeated through all areas of my life.
And just from my viewpoint, I mean, you've become a good friend, but you've developed some extremely close relationships through this process. I mean, just some of the guys that you run around with now were friends you met.
Yeah. The best man in my wedding and my best friend I met serving at Adopt Block, and so we really developed our friendship through that, and so the Dream Center has obviously a special place in my heart, but a lot of my best friends have come from the Dream Center. I mean, I proposed to my future wife at Adopt Block, so um, a lot of great memories and a lot of great friendships have come through the Dream Center.
And I mean, not to go there, but I'm going to go there with your wife to be here in a few days. Um, how did y'all meet? Loaded statement. Loaded statement.
Yeah, so we met on Match.com, and it was a Saturday in March, and I got a message from her, and so we started communicating back and forth, and after about a week and a half of messaging back and forth, I mustered up the courage to get her phone number, and we talked that night, and we spent over 4 hours on the phone. And so what was neat about it is that she was talking about she went to the grocery store that day, and so I asked her, well, where do you shop? And she said Kroger, and so I was like, well, yeah, I shop at Kroger too, and I said, this is the one I shop at, and she said, well, I shop at that one also, and I was like, oh, okay, and I was like, well, I live in this city, and she's like, well, I live in this city also, and so and then I was like, well, I live near this intersection, and she's like, yeah, I live pretty close to there too, and I was like, well, I can see this building from my house, and she's like, yep, I see that too. And
you're neither one of you are wanting to admit where you live, your address. You're just getting closer.
We're getting closer and closer to where we live, and come to find out, we live 800 feet from each other. And so it's amazing how God works and God puts people together, where we have no doubt walked past each other in the grocery store. I don't know how many times, and we met online, but we live just right around the corner from each other.
And then another one of the crazy things about this is her world and your world, as far as your ministry. I mean, she's a school teacher, and she really worked closely with her church on outreach to the same general population that you're passionate about.
Yeah, that was, I think, one of the early but clear indicators that that she's heaven sent, and we were made for each other. She teaches at an elementary school that is in a high poverty area in North Little Rock, and she is the director of their summer programming for the church that she attends, and that is it's a feeding program and like a VBS melded into one program. And so the fact that when we met, we quickly found out that we both have a heart for serving the same communities and in the same way. It was amazing, because I had been doing Adopt-A-Block, loved doing Adopt-A-Block, but now she just came alongside, and it was very seamless and comfortable, and we both love doing it, and we share that together, and so it's been amazing, and it's also helped the ministry in ways where there's certain things that I probably do well, and there's certain things that she does well, and we complement each other in those ways. And so her leading Adopt a Block with me has, I would say, improved the ministry, and it just shows how everybody can have a seat at the table, and everybody can contribute, and we can always make things better.
Yeah, and it is so amazing to look out there because I mean, you did propose to her on Adopt a Block.
Yeah,
Those kids that had kind of been out there watching y'all's relationship sprout from the very beginnings to where she just came out there to give it a whirl to that moment where you proposed. We're right there knee deep in the process. It's that was really cool just to see where your calling and her calling matched up, and it became y'all's calling.
yeah, they had a front row seat to that relationship, and like you said, from the beginning. We started serving together immediately when we started dating, and that's outreach and serving. That's something that we love doing together. And so yeah, the families, they got to see that progress over time, and so it was a great experience to be able to share that morning with them.
And I know that, I mean, that's a relationship on the extreme side of it, but tell me a little bit about some of the relationships of the people you've served out there, just how those relationships have kind of grown.
Yeah, there's there's a few family members that I have their cell phone number, and we'll talk throughout the weeks or the time between visits, and so that's a great indicator that we're we're doing we're doing well, and that we're building that relationship. And so there's also a few families where we've gone between sessions and celebrated a birthday. For example, about a month and a half ago, there was a gentleman named Walter who was having his birthday, and so we brought him dinner and celebrated his birthday with him in his house. And he invited some of the kids over that we do Adopt a Block with, and so we had a house full of people, and we just got to celebrate and honor Walter, and so that was exciting. Um, the uh, the families have been just amazing, and one thing that happened last fall that was just real humbling was one of the family members that's on the Little Rock Housing Association board. um, she asked for me to come to one of their meetings, and she presented to the Dream Center with like an appreciation plaque, and so it was real humbling and honoring that um, the communities they're not only accepting, but we're becoming friends and family together, and we get to share in these moments, whether it's birthdays, engagements, but also hurts, and just walking through those hills and valleys together. It's been great.
One of the stories you kind of mentioned to me before this was a story of Malik.
Yeah. So uh, it was a May Adopt a Block, and we were going to Eastgate, and it was raining, and so this was the day that I would say really transformed my perspective on the weather, and how it can impact outreach and ministry. Uh, Typically, if it's raining out, we'll just kind of write that day off, or assume like, well, things aren't going to go the way that I wanted them to. This is not going to go well. And so it was raining, and we packed up lunches because we had prepared the food, and we still wanted to serve lunch to the kids and whatever families we could connect with. And so we packed those up, and we drove over, and the kids, they know our timing, and they also know the Food for Good truck. It's a iconic, hard to miss vehicle in the North Little Rock area. And so, they look for us to turn the corner, and so we get there, but because it's raining, there weren't too many kids out. And Malik saw us, and he came out, and he's like, "Hey, it's raining. What are you doing here?" And we said, "Well, we still wanted to come say hi and see you, and we still wanted to bring lunch." And he kind of point blank said, "How did you guys know I wasn't gonna have food?" And when you're serving, and you get these moments that break your heart, that's when it becomes just so real on the why, and the the potential to help is, in some of these communities, there's kids that may not know when they're going to eat next, let alone if it's going to be a healthy meal. And just to have a 6-year-old kid have to face that reality and just be so plain about discussing that, it it was it was heartbreaking, but it was also validating on, this is why we do what we do. But also, when you have those rainy days, we still show up. And we'll go door to door and connect with the families that way. So we don't bring the kids out in the rain or bring the families out in the rain, but we'll go to their door, say hi, check in, see how they're doing, and offer to leave lunch with them. So yeah, that story was when it became real, if you will.
People oftentimes look at that kind of stuff and they kind of say, "Oh, that's the rarity." But I mean, I think that until you've actually walked into some of these communities and realized how many of these kids, if school's out, so's their luck on meals.
Right.
They depend upon those school lunches and school breakfasts, and it's just so crazy to me, and just all of that. We've always built programming around food for that very reason, but it's just so crazy to me because I never experienced that growing up, and to walk into that to where it's more commonplace than not.
Yeah, it is. It's an unfortunate but also very impactful reality for a lot of children in those communities. I think, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I would say two very detrimental things for kids in a similar situation are lack of nutritional foods and also reading development. It seems to me that those two things, if stymied at a young age and to no fault of their own, by the time they get in the school system, they're already behind the curve, and it's so hard to catch up. And so that's one thing that I love about the Dream Center is a lot of the programming, to include Adopt a Block, it helps address those kinds of things in the community. And I think as we play it forward and look down the timeline, I think you'll see and we'll see the fruits of that when the kids that were younger, that were given nutritional meals, that were helped out with their homework, we'll see the positive impact of that in 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, not necessarily tomorrow or next week.
Yeah, change takes time, especially for those of us that get caught in our ways. Chris, I am so thankful that you stepped in with that toe and then eventually jumped in probably over your head most of the time with a lot of this, and I'm so excited to get to see you and Crystal get married here just a few short days.
Yes,
So,
it's coming quick.
but thank you for all you do. Thank you for being here and just doing your thing your way and trusting God for so much. And now I want to just make sure and say that if someone wants to get involved with what you're doing, there's no commitment. If you just want to try it out, that's all you got to do. Come out that once. You don't like it, you're not committed for the next 6 years of your life or anything like that. And it's really coming out and having a lot of fun with kids on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we also like to do is utilize any individual giftings or passions within the volunteer corps for adopted block programming. We've had some people that are very artsy and craftsy and that they like making things, and they've come to us with ideas and said, hey, well, what if we did this or made this for the kids? And it's great. Yeah, let's do it next time, and so then we have like a craft day or people with certain games that they like to play and lead. And so not only is there, say, low commitment, but there's also a lot of opportunity for people to use their talents and their gifts uniquely and contribute to the mission in that way.
I mean, you've even got the queen of hopscotch.
Yes.
I mean, a hopscotch professional out there hopscotching with the kids. So.
Kim is amazing. The kids love whenever Kim is able to make it, and they know they're in store for a very wild hopscotch competition if she's out there.
So, all right. Well, we thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here today. And once again, thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Drew.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I so love getting to spend time with Chris Heaser. He is a guy that just started just being faithful, and what changed his life more than anything were the relationships that he picked up along the way. And so this week, I want to just ask you, who out there are you doing something with that you could form a deeper relationship with? Who out there is someone that can transform your life, help you become the person God's chosen you to be? And you just need to step out and say, hey, let's hang out. Let's have coffee. Let's go deeper. Because life change happens through relationships.